Cosplay and charity. Charity is something I hold near and dear to my heart as far as giving back to the community in various ways. I've done it through different organizations, even prior to cosplay, and continue to do so through cosplay. I like to see the faces of those children light up when you see the characters right there in front of you. I'd like to start off with a few questions. First, introduce yourselves once again. Talk about the group that you're with.
So my name again is Mark Chulen. I'm part of a number of groups. So I'm the club president for the Avengers Initiative, which is a volunteer Marvel costuming group who operates similar to the Rebel Legion and the 501st. And speaking of those two groups, yes, I'm a member of both the 501st for coming up on 15 years and the Rebel Legion. And I also belong to a G.I. Joe costuming group called Cobra Third Night Watch.
My name is Jay Holiday. I have a couple of groups, Agents of Cosplay and Kids Can Cosplay. And today I'm representing Kids Can Cosplay. That's all about the kids, helping them out. We go around to homeless shelters, hospitals, and entertain the kids with cosplayers and teach them they can be a hero, just like Spider-Man or just like the nurse and the doctor or their helper.
My name is James Buchanan Barnes. No, actually it's Sean Richter. And in the last year I have joined 3 different cosplay charity groups. The Avengers Initiative, which Mark is the head of.
Woohoo!
The Agents of Cosplay, which Jay is a part of.
Woohoo!
And the San Diego Star Wars Society, which no one here, I don't think, other than me, is a part of.
Star Wars.
So I do more events with the Star Wars group just because they're more close to my home. But I also drive up to LA and Orange County to support the other groups as well. Anytime I can support a charitable cosplay group, if at all possible, I really don't like turning them down. Sometimes I have to, just because of the distance and the amount of time involved and stuff. But yeah, so those are the 3 that I'm part of.
Thank you. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm here with Avengers Initiative with Mark. I've worked with Sean as well in San Diego at Radius Children's Hospital. I've also done events with Make-A-Wish when I worked at Disneyland. And I work at ICNA Relief in Anaheim, which is the Islamic Council of North America, and I do mental health therapy with them. And I've also helped organize a toy drive for them in Anaheim and work with the mayor.
How did you first get involved in doing these type of events through cosplay?
It's actually a fun little story. So I was 4 and part of a little dance group. We had a Mormon dance teacher, and the Mormon community is very big on charity. And we would go, each dancer would go around their neighborhood, and we had a stuffed animal drive where we would collect stuffed animals for nursing homes in our area. Then we would have a dance recital and pass out the stuffed animals at the nursing homes and spend time with the elderly. So that was my start when I was 4.
I don't remember exactly when it started. I cosplay a lot at a lot of conventions. And there's a lot of conventions to cosplay at in Southern California, so you make a lot of friends. And with social media nowadays, you stay in contact with those friends. And I know at some point, I think Mark asked me to get involved, or if I was interested in getting involved with the Avengers Initiative, and I of course said, did I say yes at first, or did I say no because you're up in LA?
You probably
I'm going to work on you.
I think
You're quick to say no.
to be honest, at first I was kind of hesitant because most of the events are in LA, and I felt like I don't want to join something if I can't contribute enough for me. You know, I didn't feel like these guys are going to be like wagging their finger at me going, hey, you're not going to enough events. I felt like if I'm going to join a group, I want to contribute to the group. So I think actually at first I said no. And I know I said no to Agents of Cosplay, and again, for the same reason. And then later on I reached out to Jay and Andy, and I said, hey, you know, I really, because I was doing events that you guys were hosting, and you didn't have to be a member to it, and I felt like, you know what, I can do this. So I know I joined the Avengers Initiative first, and then Agents of Cosplay, and then San Diego Star Wars Society, but I don't have a story like, this is when I joined.
Mine started a couple years ago, actually a few years ago, 2013. I wasn't much of a cosplayer. My kids have been doing it for, since they were very little. And it was their idea to say, that'd be great if we can somehow give back in something we love doing, in cosplay, where other kids can cosplay. And that's where the name came from, was from my kids, and we said, all right, let's try to go visit some hospitals. And I booked a Long Beach Memorial Hospital to go visit the kids, and they said you have to be 18 or over to participate. So on the first event I had, my own kids couldn't participate. So I reached out to some guy named Terrence and said, hey, I don't know you, but can you come as Spider-Man and help with, participate with these kids? And that was Terrence.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he showed up all the way from, Oceanside, San Diego area, and that was my first day meeting him, was at the charity event that we did for kids. And since then, it's been great. We've done many charities from, again, homeless shelters, hospitals, and just really big, schools where I got 250 kids, and I had a lot of people represent there, everything from Star Wars to Transformers, Disney, people, and it's been great ever since.
For myself, back in college, some friends of mine wanted to do a bunch of Batman costumes. So this is the interest, Batman Forever, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and stuff like that. So, we coupled some stuff together, and I think I was the Grim Reaper for Batman Year 2. How my interest has evolved, well, at a college going into the working world, a buddy of mine, he made us some TIE Fighter outfits, and we ended up joining the 501st Legion when I was very young. Over 10 years ago, I did a visit with British Children's Hospital, organized by the 501st Legion, and said, you know what, I'd like to be a part of this. I said, I'd like to take this experience back to where I was living up in Sacramento. So I asked the facility we visited, and I said, hey, do you know any facilities that we can visit? So I visited a place called Sutter Child Life Program, and then after a few years, we got to do Shriners Hospital for Children, and it just snowballed to other places like Ronald McDonald House and Make-A-Wish and stuff like that. So I've been doing stuff like that now for over 10 years.
The first time I cosplayed for a community event was on the East Coast when I lived out in Maryland. And it was with a group called the Heroes Alliance. It was a food drive, and it really touched me because there were families there who really needed what we were raising, and those kids had sad faces when they came in. They were happy when they left because Spider-Man was there, Batman was there, there was a Iron Man, and I believe there was a Wonder Woman also. And ever since then, like Mark said, it snowballed, so I just keep doing it. Jay, you mentioned something about the whole having to be 18 to participate. I guess to elaborate on that, if you guys will, what other things does it take to do this?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on the event that you're participating in and maybe the locations. Hospitals, they're very, very strict. Some homeless shelters, they can be just as strict as wanting to do background checks on the people that are coming in, especially if you're going into the women and children section and you're a male cosplayer. They want to do background checks. Other places that I do, like the one for the school where I got 250 kids, they don't care who you are. They just want to cheer up the kids and have some fun regardless of your age. So even our cosplayers bring their kids to the cosplay. So it all depends on the venue that you're working with. They have certain restrictions. Some of them will say, no villains, we want no jokers, nothing that looks scary. Where other people say, yeah, if you got villains and you could put on a little skit that the villains learn a lesson, we do that too. So it varies. Then they say no weapons, you don't want anything too scary. So what can be a weapon? A gun or a rubber chicken, what are the rules? So, or Harley mallet, things like that. Definitely have to be very kid appropriate when you're doing the charity events that are for kids, whether it's Make-A-Wish or the Ronald McDonald House and there's a bunch of kids present. Your cosplays have to be appropriate. So if you're going to do a cosplay of a character that might dress a little more provocative, you got to change your costume or that costume is not going to go well. So a lot of things to really consider when you want to get into charity. And not to discourage any cosplayers from going, but they have to be a specific character that the kids are going to relate to, that they're going to understand. So when you're in a hospital, it's so funny. The first time I met Terrence, he came as Spider-Man, and one of the little kids there were like, all right, Spider-Man's here. And he's like, I want Deadpool. Little 5-year-old kid, you remember that? And I'm like, how does he even know who Deadpool is? You know, so.
Trust me, man, they know.
Well, this was 3
This is
years
way before the
ago.
movie.
This was 3 years ago. I purposely avoided from ever having a Deadpool at my event because I kid appropriate. No, they wanted Deadpool. So, you know, it just all goes to show you got to make sure that it is kid appropriate. And if you do have a Deadpool, they are not in the character that you see in the movie. You got to watch out for that stuff. So a lot of restrictions.
Yeah. You reminded me, the one woman that was at one of our events, she had to wear a cape to cover herself somewhat, you know, because one woman kind of wears like a, not just skin that shows. They wanted to cover.
I was just going to add to that. I think generally speaking, hospitals are the most strict, right? Like a month or two ago, there was somebody on Facebook, there was a kid that was hospitalized up here. I'm sure most of you guys saw this, but somebody was posting on Facebook, oh my God, there's this kid, he's sick, he's in the hospital. It would be great if some cosplayers could just show up and cheer this kid up. And I was like, ooh, you can't just like charge into a hospital in costume going, I'm here to see that one kid, you know. You can't,
Well, no,
you can't do that.
You shared that, and unfortunately I didn't chime in because you said it was an uncle who wanted to show up, and I asked a friend of mine whose fiance, he does work at Children's Hospital Lane, and she double checked. As nice as that was, that uncle, to ask him to come out, this person said, you have to know or be invited by the facility, so you just can't show up.
Yeah, you don't just march into a hospital in a costume and say, I'm here to see the children, or a child in that case, you know, because you go in to see one child and you're not going to do that without the other kids seeing you walk by, and then they're like, well, how come that child got a visit and I didn't? You know, there's a whole bunch of reasons that you can't just do that.
My own experience doing hospital visits is much more like any of us trying to apply for a job. You need to ask a contact, you need to be aware of your audience, and you also need to be aware of any rules that be in place. So sometimes ID checks are done, sometimes they'll ask you if you've had measles shots or chickenpox shots and stuff like that. Something that I do when I organize visits, I ask people if you're feeling under the weather. I know you want to share your experience with your kids, but if you're sick, please stay at home. You know, you don't, a kid may not look as bad, but you don't know what kind of autoimmune deficiency issue they may have, or it may affect their family. You know, when we've had stormtroopers or other characters with guns, we have to politely say, hey, can you please leave them at home? In case in point, Shriners Hospital for Children. Some of the facilities are amputee places, and you don't know how those kids were injured, so it's not appropriate to have weapons at a facility like that. We live in a social media age and stuff like that. A lot of patients we deal with, or even like your homeless shelter, like you mentioned, Jay, they necessarily don't want pictures. So privacy, safety issues, and stuff like that. Now, in my case, I have been able to take pictures. The way I do it is that I'm the only one taking pictures, and I do not post them until I have them vetted by pediatric staff. And, you know, like, oh, what's the issue if I take just one harmless picture with a kid or his family? They're doing it too. They're doing it because they're patients, and that's for themselves. You have no reason to know why a kid or a family member is in a certain situation. And I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, but HIPAA compliance, you want to make sure you respect the privacy of those people providing the facility and stuff like that. So.
You just can't use your own camera going to a lot of these places and take pictures. Some of them say if you want to take pictures, parents need to sign a consent form.
Right.
So I was at one hospital where almost all the parents, except for one, signed the form. So there's actually one kid we had to make sure was not in any of our pictures. And you could tell the kid really had, you know, some problems. It's probably why the parent didn't want them to be in any kind of photos. And again, same thing that Mark said is when you take the pictures, you just can't go around and use them and post them what you want. Any pictures for me that I take at an organization, they get to see all the pictures first and say, here's all the pictures. Am I okay to post these on social media? And then they'll either say yes or no, or don't post any with kids, or some will say no problem, you know, whatever. But yeah, you really have to get permission to do that stuff.
Yeah, some say, oh, you can take a picture with our sign out front, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
Like a group photo of all the cosplayers, yeah.
One thing also working with children with disabilities or illnesses, it's important to put the person first or the child first before the disability or illness. So it's not something where you walk in and ask about the illness or disability unless the child brings it up. Then you can comment on it or talk to them about it. But it's really important to just put the person first because their disability or illness does not define who they are.
When going to one of these events, a lot of times I have to mentally prepare because there are going to be a lot of children present. So I have to get all the curse words out of my system. It's a little ritual I do when I'm in the car headed to the event. You know, I might actually play some foul music so I get all the curse words out of my system. And then once I get to the event, you know, I park and I'll put on some event music, maybe something from a movie soundtrack or something to get me into the mode of, okay, now I'm going to be this character. You know, could you guys share what you might do before something like that, before you do an event? Any weird rituals like mine, or am I just the only weird one here?
I listen to the Frozen soundtrack.
I just try to clear my mind and just focus, you know, this is what I'm here to do. I don't try to think of anything else, you know, try to focus. I mean, most of the charitable stuff that we all do involves kids to some degree. It's usually for the children. And kind of like Kristen just said, you're there for them. You know, so focus on the kids, make eye contact, you know, get down to their level. I don't know, I just kind of clear my mind and just relax. And I haven't been to an event yet that I didn't really enjoy, so I'm not going in with any dread or like, oh God, here we go again. I mean, they're really fun. So it's not hard to get ready for something that's so much fun. Now, I haven't had to organize an event or anything like these two guys have. Probably more stressful for them, but
Yeah, a little bit more stressful to organize.
I pray, and it's not like you think that, you know, you're very religious type of person, but there's times you get cosplayers, for me, coming to an event that you haven't met before. They just signed up on social media. You have no idea who they are, or maybe you know of them and like, oh, they are the most vulgarest person I know. What is going to happen at this event? And it's like, oh, dear Lord, don't let anything bad happen.
So my ritual going in, I'm very analytical by nature, is I just really go over a checklist. And unfortunately that helps me, because especially, Terrence, I know you're in the medical field, or people you know, you have law enforcement, military, that helps out. Because as Terrence, Kristen, and Sean knows, for a visit I organized back in October, I experienced a bad car accident. I got rear-ended and I'm still dealing with it. But I was late to the event, but thankfully, you know, with solid people in place already at the event, thankfully it went on as needed. You know, the kids were visiting, stuff like that. And, you know, I just had to unfortunately deal with the accident on site, get the information, you know, take pictures and stuff like that. But thankfully when I got to the event, it was taking place and everything seemed to be hunky-dory. So that's for me is my kind of mental checklist, is just make sure everything is in place as best as possible. So.
Earlier I asked you guys how you got involved with doing cosplay charity events. How about how'd you get into cosplay, period?
we got into superheroes in general thanks to our now 10-year-old son, who is
10?
Can you believe that? Yeah, so fast, dude.
That's Gavin's dad over there.
When he was, yeah, Gavin's dad.
That's Gavin's dad.
Everybody knows Gavin. Nobody knows who I am.
That's Gavin's dad.
Now it's all coming together. People are like, oh, now I know. Yeah, so I'll try to make this shorter than it really is. But when he was 3, he started watching superhero cartoons. And we lived in San Diego, and we had seen this crazy, massive event called San Diego Comic-Con that happened every year. So,
Oh, God.
So our first con was San Diego. We only went on Sunday because it was Kids' Day, and we just bought a ticket like the month before. Imagine that. I know, it's crazy nowadays. This was 8 years ago. How times have changed. And we went on Sunday, and we loved it, and it really just completely snowballed from there. Our love for superheroes in our household. We started going to more. The nice thing about Southern California is there's so many events to go to. You know, there's San Diego, there's 2 in Long Beach now. There's this one, there's WonderCon, there's Kamikaze, there's other smaller ones. Now, I mean, we just went to Phoenix Comic-Con, we went to Wizard World in Vegas. I look totally ridiculous with this hair.
You look luxurious.
Luxurious? I like luxurious. How we got into cosplay was we went to WonderCon when Gavin was 5 or 6. And just out of the blue, I had bought a metal Captain America shield that was, when he stood up, the shield was about this tall. And you could just like see his head over the top of it. It was pretty funny. And I bought a metal, a real used Army helmet at the Army surplus store and painted it blue and white. And bought him a Captain America, like one of those muscle costumes, and put some cargo pants on him. And we went to WonderCon. And he was adorable, and everybody wanted pictures with him, and he loved it. And then that was at WonderCon, and then at San Diego the next year, We dressed him up as Coulson, which is where he got the name Kid Coulson, because Clark Gregg retweeted some of his pictures and everybody thought he was adorable. And then I dressed up as Cap because Coulson adores Cap, and it just has completely snowballed from there. But that was the beginning for us.
I think my first cosplay was Tim Burton's Catwoman in 6th grade. And the reasoning behind that was I wanted to wear lipstick, and my mom would never let me wear lipstick. So I'm like, well, what can I dress up as lipstick? I'm like Catwoman. So my grandma made me the costume, and I had the rubber cowl, and I walked around in like high-heeled boots, and I thought it was pretty.
Did you get to carry the whip? That's what I want to know.
I had a whip.
Nice. That's awesome.
6th grade.
That's cool.
Jeez. So that was my first cosplay, but I really didn't get into it until I started working at Disney in the entertainment department. Got to dress up like a princess. Like, well, this is really fun. I get to do this for work. And then I started going to Renaissance fairs, and then it just kind of snowballed into Comic-Con. And so here I am.
Let's see, I showed up at WonderCon a long time ago when it was back in Oakland.
1950.
1950, more like the late 1990s. I'm not that old, man.
It's like 1776.
But
The war had just ended.
this is before WonderCon was bought up by Comic-Con
Captain
International.
America #1 just came out.
But it was interesting, you know, because I'm not to say that, you know, Stormtroopers are a dime a dozen, but, you know, seeing Star Wars now that's especially bought by Disney, there's a lot of interest, especially I see it in this room. But, you know, when I was walking around as a TIE fighter pilot with my buddy, he was saying, well, you choked me, like, I'm not Darth Vader, man. But that's just the interest I saw back in the late 90s in the hobby, was just, you know, the idea of seeing a character off the movie screen, as ubiquitous as it was, a TIE fighter pilot, from something like that. So that was my first experience, was WonderCon back in the day.
I would just go to conventions to shop and buy. I didn't care anything about cosplay. I didn't even really see or pay attention if people were in costumes back in 2005, 2006. It wasn't until about 2008, 9, my comic book store, local comic store, it's free comic book day, and they were going to have Spider-Man stuff there, and I go, hey, I can force my kids into some little costumes of Cyclops and Storm, and we're going to go to the costume, go to the comic book shop, and they didn't want to get out of the van. Like, Dad, it's broad daylight, and we're in Halloween costumes. It's going to be fun.
Now look at them.
They got out, they took pictures, got right back in the van, but it wasn't until next year, after that, they're like, let's go to a convention. And they're like, oh, I don't want to wear a costume again, Storm, and little Iron Man with the talking helmet, and pew, pew, pew. And they went there to the cons, back when it was, just knee high. They went to the cons and they saw all these other people cosplaying, and they're like, this is cool, I'm not the only one. And they picked it up. I was like, I'm never going to wear a costume. No. I'm like, oh, really? Forget it. But then the idea came, Kamikaze 2013, wouldn't it be great if you guys were Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and I could do Magneto, because I'm really your dad. That'd be so awesome. And 2013, Kamikaze, I did Magneto, and I loved it. I felt powerful, a cape blowing in the wind, love capes. And ever since then, we were just hooked, and here we are.
That fits you because you have a very magnetic personality.
Oh.
But
I'm cute.
My first start into cosplay, I guess I showed this. My first actual job was working for a Marvel Appearance Company, and I went to zoos and malls and took pictures for kids. But I didn't really get into the whole convention thing until like years later. So putting on spandex again was pretty easy. Because I could do this for free, I don't have to get paid to wear this. I altered a mask on one of the licensed costumes. I improved it. And that's how I began with the whole costume making thing. I went to the military, blah, blah, blah. I even did while I was in active duty military, believe it or not. Rushing from a deployment to go to Comic-Con.
Wow.
My superior would be like, hey, why are you rushing out to get tickets to San Diego?
I'm going to see family.
I was actually going to see.
In a costume.
Yeah. I guess I'll open the floor for some questions.
Oh, there's
Feel
one.
free to raise your hand. Go right ahead.
How old do you have to be to do the volunteering at the hospital?
They normally want you to be an adult, so 18.
What if I'm mentally 18? How do you decide?
Unfortunately, they require ID.
Yeah, sometimes they even do background checks and they want to see your shot record and all this. Kind
It's fine. I'm the head of the FBI. I can make up my own story.
As harsh as it sounds, unfortunately, at least for the Avengers Initiative and over the 501st Thoroughbred Legion, you have to be a legal adult. And the reason why is just simply because as a full adult, you carry the responsibility, you wait the age to do these events.
So
Yeah.
we wear costumes. We wear these silly little costumes. We have to be an adult to wear them. to the events.
Yes, you have to be an adult to wear.
But I'm
by
not,
age,
they
you
can't
have to-
tell.
Well, as we said earlier before, there are other events than just hospitals that kids can actually, teenagers can actually participate in some charity events. So it is possible for teenagers or even younger children to participate, but it all depends on the type of venue that you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hospital specifically, or any kind of pediatric service event, you just have to deal with the reality. It is 18, just for not only the participant's safety, but also for the people you're visiting, their safety and their well-being. But as Jay's mentioned, like I've done some fairs, you could bring kids along, and it's perfectly fun. Why? Because it's a semi-public event. But especially if you're doing bedside visits, I'm a godparent, I'm a bachelor, I'm not a parent myself, but you probably don't want to expose your kids to the stuff that's in the hospital. There's a flip side to that too.
Anyone else have a question? Sure, go ahead.
What was your most personally rewarding or fulfilling experience that you got? If you could pick one in particular from all the different events you've done.
He stole my question. Dang it. Kristen, who would like to go first with that?
Let Kristen go first.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. When I was working at Disney, Make-A-Wish flew me to Sacramento to visit a little girl named Maria in the hospital. She was too sick to come to Disneyland, and she really desperately wanted to see Mary Poppins. And so they flew me as Mary Poppins on United Airlines to Sacramento, and I went to the Children's Hospital in Sacramento and stayed with her all day. We watched the Mary Poppins movie. I was dressed as Mary Poppins and her nanny, trench coat and skirt and little hat and the white gloves. And I remember Maria just really loving my gloves, and she wanted to try them on. She had a lot of tubes in her hands, so she could only put one glove on. So I had one glove, and she had one glove, so I let her have it like as a part, like a memento. But I got to spend the entire day with her and her family, just spending time with her and watching the movie, and that was it. That's all she wanted, was to spend time with Mary Poppins.
I'll go next. So, I don't know, 4 months ago or so, I got a message on Facebook from somebody who I'm friends with, but I don't really know them that well. And they were contacting me because there was a little boy named Parker who has a very rare type of brain cancer, and basically found out in January, on January 16th he was fine, and on the 17th he got really sick. They took their 5-year-old boy to the hospital and were told, your son has brain cancer, he has 6 months to live, there's a 0% chance of survival. Like basically, worst case scenario as a parent. And this person was contacting me because the little boy's favorite character was Captain America, and they knew I cosplayed as Captain America, and they were having a carnival, a charity carnival for Parker and his family, because the only options this family has now is, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's, thank you. Experimental procedures that haven't been approved that aren't covered by insurance. So basically, it's all out-of-pocket expense for the family, and obviously very, very expensive. So it was a charitable carnival to raise money for the family. They just wanted me to come because his favorite was Cap, and I asked if it was okay because I know a lot of cosplayers that like to do this sort of thing. And they said the more the merrier. And I don't remember how many we had, but it was probably 20 or 25 cosplayers that showed up: Star Wars, Marvel, DC, princesses, everything. And I don't know if anybody knows who Sideshow Collectibles is. I'm going to give them a plug because they donated some products to us to go into the silent auction, which raised a bunch of money, which was fantastic. And at the end of the day, it was an all-day carnival. There's 20 or 25 probably cosplayers there, and as a whole, the event raised, I think it was about $65,000 for the family. So that was pretty amazing. It's one thing when you do like a hospital visit is awesome, but it's a whole bunch of kids. You know, like I haven't done a Make-A-Wish event yet, but probably the same deal. I'm guessing it's a bunch of kids, unless it's like a specific Make-A-Wish for one child or something. It's a little, I don't want to say it's better, but there's a little more feeling to it when you're doing something for a specific child or a specific family. You can see, you know, the whole family showed up in a limo at that event, and they got out and they were just blown away by all the people and everything. This whole event that was put together just for them. That was awesome.
It was really heartwarming.
Mine was just last September, where we got to go to Skid Row in LA. And if you've never been to Skid Row in LA, it is one of the most poorest areas I've ever seen. And you just drive a mile up and you're in a wonderful area in LA, just a mile away. Tents, homeless people, crack addicts, all of that. And it was an event for the homeless children at a park that we were trying to help. And a lot of the homeless men were there to show support for the kids. And the park has a little gated area, but it has a big opening. And, you know, some crackhead lady tried to come into the park, and all of the homeless men blocked the opening and said, "You can't come in here, this is for kids." And she started taking her clothes off and being crazy, and they quickly covered her, you know, with a blanket so that none of the kids can really see what's going on. And these kids literally had nothing. We were there to pass out backpacks, and there's an adult looking through the bar of the event saying, "Can I get a backpack?" You know, he had no kids. Like, "Can I get a backpack?" Like, "Yeah, you know, we're going to pass out the backpacks soon to the kids, and when we have leftover, we'll give them to you." And my wife wasn't going to have that. She reached over and just grabbed the backpack and goes, "Here." You know, just gave them back because they have nothing. One kid showed up without a shirt, and he got a shirt. You know, there's one little kid there. We're giving away free capes, and I go, "Do you want a superhero cape?" He's like, "No, I want Power Rangers mask." I'm like, "We don't have Power Rangers masks. You know, we have superhero cape. I don't want superhero cape." "You want a Power Rangers cape?" "Yeah!" It's the same cape. So I just gave him the cape. He's the Red Ranger. And to see these kids, to look at these cosplayers, you know, I had a Wolverine there, we had a Stormtrooper, we had a Thor, and they were like I've never seen such thing. And that's amazing to be able to realize these kids aren't going to have a home to go back to when the event's over. Their families are sleeping in tents right down the street. That's tough, because you know the help that you're giving. For me, I'm like, man, it's only temporary. I wish there was something we can do to get them out of that kind of situation. That's tough when you know the help you're giving is temporary. That was probably my most hard experience.
So for me, I do a lot of pediatric events, and the one that sticks out to me was, we did one 13 years ago, and it was for a young boy who had a brain tumor, unfortunately. And so, you know, it just so happened, a documentary also wanted to record this, and I said, okay, well, I'll see what I can do. Well, it's the convenience thing, because I've done enough of them, I just wanted to say, just so you guys have some clips. But just going in, knowing that the kid was that sick, you know, it's tough. You know, when I mentally try and go in to these events, I have to remind myself to try and keep it together so I can have organized people there and stuff like that. But you have to remind myself, and even the people involved, that if you need a break, especially what you see, go ahead and do so. Because, you know, all of us were only human and stuff like that. But the nice thing was the documentary crew had a chance to interview the pediatric staff and, you know, the parents, and just seeing these people give their testimony, like, you know, it's very difficult for them to go through that day, to go day after day to see that sick kid, and sometimes, you know, some results may be better in the future, sometimes it may not be. But to see them enjoy that one moment in their stay at a hospital, it gives them some relief. And so that's what I try to remind myself, is that anyone who I can help bring to that event, I'm grateful to all of you folks, like you, Terrence, you, Sean, and you, Kristen. Appreciate for all you guys' efforts and stuff like that. So it makes a lot, especially when we went to like radio and stuff like that. We did bedside visits where it was in the emergency room and stuff like that. You don't know what may happen. The person may just react to the incident, or to women that's ailing them, and it's tough.
I work at a hospital. I work in an operating room. I'm prior military. I've seen a lot, but I guess for me, the most touching moment for me was a Christmas event. We were giving out toys. Remember there were the Toys for Tots were there, Marine Corps, and I think there were some 501st guys there too. But there was just one family, had this little boy who, with his best effort to get to me, because he couldn't walk, he's on the floor, he's crawling towards me. So I had to, of course, rush to meet him. And they said they had never seen him put that much effort into doing anything until he thought Spider-Man was actually there in front of him. And I think I actually shed a few tears while under the mask, because it made me, I was really happy and sad at the same time. I guess that's the best one for me. Anything?
I have something I was going to add to the last topic we were talking about, hospital visits. When we did the Radies Children's Hospital visit last year, it was, I think about 8 people in costume that met up, and we split up in pairs, and we were escorted. Each one of us took a floor, so one pair took one floor and another pair took another floor. We were escorted by hospital staff. You don't just wander around. And the way it works is your escort goes into a room ahead of you and announces that you're there and asks the parent, is it okay? Some of the kids were sleeping, the parent wants to go in. Anyway, the point I wanted to make was going into that event, that was probably the event I was most nervous about, because I didn't know what I was going to see exactly, and I have a child who, at the age of 10, I can't possibly imagine a child being more healthy than this kid is. I mean, the kid's never sick. And we've been so blessed and so fortunate with his health. I wondered to myself going into that event, how hard is it going to be for me as a parent to see these kids in their condition? And I thought, like you talked about shedding a tear on your mask, I thought, am I going to, because I'm a big softie, and I thought, I'm just going to break down and start crying in front of these kids, to see them in their condition. But once the event started, it was the opposite of that for me, because they were all so happy to see me, and I put smiles on their faces, and they wanted to hug me and take pictures with me, and the parents wanted pictures of their kids with me. And to see how much good I was doing for them, I mean, it was only 3, 4, 5 minutes in each room with each child. It wasn't very long with each child because we had a whole floor to cover, but it wasn't difficult at all. I mean, it was so rewarding, and to bring all that joy to those families and those children, it was easy.
If you guys are interested in getting a cosplay, maybe we can share where people can, look us up.
Yeah, this is good.
We represent, as you can see, a lot of different organizations, a lot of different choices you guys can go to volunteer for charity, and each and every one of us encourages you to get involved in any of them. If you love charity work, and you love just making, whether adults or mostly children, bring a smile to your face. For me, you can go to kidscancosplay.org, and you can send us an email through there if you're interested.
Another thing too I'll mention is, the groups I'm a part of, I'm a part of the San Diego Star Wars Society and the Avengers Initiative. You don't have to be a Star Wars cosplayer to be in the San Diego Star Wars Society. There are events that we do that are Star Wars themed. So I don't have a Star Wars costume. I have a bunch of Captain America themed costumes that I do. I hopefully will have a Star Wars costume sometime soon, so I can do that. But if that's the case, if it's a Star Wars only event, I go and I either take pictures of the event, or we have wranglers, people that just help that aren't in costume. The Avengers Initiative, it's the Avengers Initiative. But I'm trying to remember, you were Elsa, right? So she's a Disney princess. There's a guy with an R2-D2 droid. It's not,
Droid builders.
the name doesn't mean that you have to only cosplay as a character in that group, basically. If you're interested in cosplaying for charity, by all means, you should contact whatever groups you're interested in, even if you don't have cosplays that you think are appropriate for that group, because believe me, we want good people. That's what we want. We want people that want to do good for children, for families.
Just look at what you have to bring to a group and hook up with them. So, as we mentioned, be careful about taking pictures, but if a facility does allow you to take pictures, you can offer your photographic talents. But let's say, the costume, hey, but I'm a droid builder, or let's say I've made a Darlac from Doctor Who.
Who?
Ooh, yes.
See what you do.
You know, the idea is that you'd be surprised what people are interested in. When I first started doing these events, it was purely Star Wars only, but I realized, hey, there are a lot of gals here, it'd be nice, you know, kids are actually maybe afraid of a stormtrooper and stuff, it'd be nice for things like superheroes, it'd be nice for things like Disney princesses. I have a buddy out in Northern California, he has a Transformer outfit, and he makes foam cycles, like the Tron Light Cycle and the Bat Pod and stuff like that. You'd be very surprised heading into these events. My biggest thing is probably network. You know, there's a lot of groups out there, like I mentioned, the Falcon First Legion, Rebel Legion, my group, the Avengers Initiative. Just talk to these people and see how you can get involved. You'd be very surprised how far you can go. So.
You had a question?
Yes, so what about people that don't have costumes and want to join in? Do you guys have maybe any type of network where they can figure it out how to make the costumes, or maybe point them out in the right direction? Where do I get this part? Where do I get this?
There's a lot with the internet now, you have a ton of ridiculous resources. It's not even funny. So, with the 501st Rebel Legion, I know they have what's called a costume reference library. And they also have detachments. I don't know what the Rebel Legion, what they call theirs, but the Legion has something called detachments, which covers a certain area. We're not that advanced in the Avengers Initiative, we're a new group, but there are still other places like the Replica Prop Forum or the RPF.com, the Superhero Costuming Forum. Christian, I don't know this since you're a professor, but where can people look for Disney princess outfits? Questions like that.
Yeah.
Could you hear that groan through the microphone, or just me?
I mean, I had a friend that would make them for me, but,
So it's a secret organization.
In terms of making an outfit, my best suggestion is, whether it's a show like this, or let's say WonderCon or Comic-Con, is go up to a booth. If it's a group of people, ask them, hey, do you have a card, or do you have a website, or even a Facebook page where I can ask some questions? And usually there's at least some group of people out there who will just be pointing in the right direction.
oh,
I
I'm
mean-
sorry, Disney Cosplayers Facebook.
There you go.
There it
There's your
is.
answer.
There's one. They're also nice.
Some costumes don't really need to be that elaborate.
Right.
Like when I do some of my events, I like giving out capes, and I have a friend that buys from Smart and Final, and she buys it out of her own pocket just to show her support. She'll buy the tablecloths, like the latex tablecloths, and she gets her family, and they get together, and they get a different colors, and they just cut out the capes in the shape of the capes. And then they put little, the Velcro pieces on it, so when the kid puts it around, they don't choke themselves. You know, they can do the little Velcro. I don't know how much it costs her to do that, but she donates capes like that. So if you have talent in just making little simple stuff as capes, or donating little masks out of foam, you know, you can do all little kinds of stuff that can go a long, long way for kids. So you can help out in that area, photography, making something, and I'm sure other people, we can use what we like to call volunteers and handlers that aren't even in cosplay,
Right.
that are definitely a big help and support for what we do.
Such a big help. All right, well, we're just about out of time. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming to our panel.
We can talk outside if you have any questions for us.
Yeah, we'll pass off our information, and you can come see us inside. On the show floor, we all have, well, most of us have tables there, or you can find us.
We're
Thanks,
around.
thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.